I am honored to introduce our presenter, Ann Balduzzi. Ann is a recognized AI expert and one of the DC region's top women in tech. With an extensive experience in optimizing operational efficiency and mitigating risk with AI, she's held key roles with industry giants such as Apple and AOL. She is the founder of the award-winning AI enablement platform SameGrain, and she holds a patent in data match analysis. Today, Ann will take us beyond the buzz and into the real-world practical applications that can benefit your organization. A few housekeeping items. Please keep your microphones on mute throughout the presentation to avoid any background noise. And if you have any questions during the presentation, please use the Zoom chat to submit them directly to me, and we will go through them during the Q&A portion at the end of the webinar. I'll read them out to Ann, and she will answer them to the best of her ability. Without further ado, I hand things over to you, Ann.
Great. Well, it's wonderful to be here today. We have a lot of interesting information to share. But one of the points that I like to make at the beginning of every AI presentation, and I've been talking about the future of AI for about 20 years now, and that future is now, frankly. But it's growing very quickly. And so a lot of the information you're going to hear today may be out of date as soon as next week, next month, or later this year. That's how rapidly things are changing within the AI space. So I always like to start out with a bit of that disclaimer in case someone's watching this at a much later date. But one of the key points that I really want to make, and just setting the stage for today's conversation, is that we are going through an exceptionally transformative era with regards to technology as a result of AI. This is going to be more transformative, not just on businesses, but also on humanity as a whole. It's going to be more transformative than the invention of electricity, the Industrial Revolution, or even the introduction of the internet. In fact, I believe it's going to be more transformative than all three of those combined. But it's also going to be unlocking this amazing potential for innovation, for productivity and progress. And the bottom line is it is growing exponentially. And for those of you who are not really good at grasping exponential growth, I always like to kind of give this example to help people kind of, think through it in a different way. So if you were to imagine 30 linear steps from wherever you're sitting right now, you can probably pretty accurately determine where that's going to take you in your immediate surroundings. Just imagine those 30 steps. But now I want you to try to imagine what 30 exponential steps would look like. And those exponential steps, you might be imagining that it's going to take you to the other side of the building, the other side of town, maybe the other side of your state, or even the other side of the country. But actually, 30 exponential steps would take you almost to the moon. So that's the kind of growth we're looking at over the next several years when it comes to AI. But this has not been an overnight success. In fact, this has been gradually growing over the past 70 years. And if you were to look at sort of the broad timeline of AI as it's been proposed by a lot of experts in this space, we are in a phase of AI right now that is called artificial narrow intelligence. That's the blue box to your left. That's the phase we've been in for several decades, actually. And this is where AI has simply been augmenting human intelligence. Now, one of the experts in the space of AI, a man by the name of Ray Kurzweil, he's actually estimating, and by the way, his predictions have been pretty accurate up to this point. He's estimating we will hit the next phase of AI before the end of this decade. And that next phase is referred to as artificial general intelligence, or AGI. And you're going to hear more and more about AGI in the next few years. And what that basically means is the AI is now equal to human intelligence. And so imagine having somebody with a PhD level of intelligence sitting, kind of working right beside you in your day-to-day work life. And that's sort of where it's imagined that it will take people at that point. And then the scarier side of AI, or the unknown side of AI, is that final phase, which, by the way, we may never get to that final phase. Some people believe we'll never get there. Some people believe that it's many, many years away. And some people believe that it could be a very utopian future when we get to that phase. And that phase is artificial superior intelligence. And essentially, it's when AI knows that it's smarter than humans. Now, that's where a lot of your employees, when they hear AI, they're going to immediately jump to that last, phase of AI, which we're really nowhere near right now. And when they think of that, they're going to think of things like the Terminator movie and all those kind of crazy, sci-fi movies they might have seen over the years. That's something you just will need to manage within your organization, because they need to, the stage of AI that we're in right now is actually an area that people can embrace and work with. And we really shouldn't be too focused on that artificial superior intelligence, because I'm going to tell you about some other things today that are actually happening now that might even be more scary to your organization. But with that said, I like to kind of briefly run through the history of AI, just so people can understand how it's grown over the years. And basically, it got started in roughly 1950. Alan Turing was initially kind of proposed the idea, but it was hindered from that point in time to roughly 1998 because of limited computational power. There was limits to the amount of data that we had, and the algorithms, frankly, were not that sophisticated, and people weren't that interested in it. So there wasn't a whole lot of funding. But if you want to kind of look at an old video from around during that time frame, Apple created a vision for AI called Apple Knowledge Navigator. It's an old grainy video that you can probably find on YouTube. And it sort of shows what, way back in 1988, what Apple envisioned the future of AI to look like. And honestly, we are very close to that vision right now. So that just will give you some perspective on how AI has grown over the ages. And then we went through this era from roughly 1999 to 2017, and this was classifying and tagging data. And it was also a movement towards deep learning. And one of the things that helped researchers in that kind of era of, fine tuning and growing AI in new and different ways, people were very fractured in all the different ways in which they were using AI. They tried to basically create solutions that could beat a human at a game. So you had, trying to beat humans at chess. And then in 2011, you had IBM's Watson that was beating people in Jeopardy. And then fast forward to 2017, their DeepMind, which is now owned by Google, created an AI that could beat a human in the game of Go. Now, if you're not familiar with the game of Go, it's the longest continuously played game in the history of humanity. It's been played for 2,500 years. And in that time frame, the amount of moves that you can theoretically come up with on a Go board are actually more than the amount of atoms in the observable universe. So it's a very highly complex game. So DeepMind went off and they created this AI that they trained it and did all kinds of, twists and turns with it to make sure it was sophisticated enough to play the number one Go player at the time. And it obviously won. And then they took it a step further and actually stripped it of all of its programming language and created something called AlphaGo Zero. And what they did there is they just gave it the rules of the game, had it play itself, and then it very quickly caught up. Within a few weeks, it was back to the original programming that took years to create. And it, again, was the best Go player on the planet. And one of the things that Demis Hassabis, who was the head of Google's DeepMind at the time, one of the comments that he made is that it was showing us like moves in the game that no human had ever tried before. So it was creating new concepts or new plays, new ways in which to think about the game. And it was very much thinking outside the box. In fact, it was thinking so far outside the box that no human had thought about the game in that way before. And that's actually showing up today in the use cases of AI. We're seeing AI being able to help humans think in new and different ways than we've ever thought before. So that brings us sort of to the modern age of AI. And this was kicked off by some new transformer architecture that was opened up in 2018. And you've been seeing all of these sort of chatbots. You've been seeing things like Dolly, which is an image model. By the way, there's multiple other image models out there. And all of this is growing through this generative AI era, which has brought us to all the large language models that we're familiar with today. Also during that, just to highlight AlphaFold, which is another DeepMind project, it actually went off and solved the protein folding problem. So that's unlocking all kinds of new fields of biology right now. So it's really a lot of innovations have just occurred in just the last decade. And what this has overall done is all of these fractured AI efforts that were taking place over those past several decades have now been united around large language models and text prompts. So you can type in using, kind of a text field within one of these large language models. You can type in text and get a report, a press release, a poem, any number of things you can request through it. You can also use text to generate programming code. You can use text to generate images or video or music or audio and translations, or very soon we're using it even now to create robot instructions. And these possibilities keep going on and on and on. And then the other thing that's been happening is it's not just text anymore. We're now being able to converse and chat with these large language models. That's a newer feature. And that's creating the opportunity to just talk to create a programming code or talk to create an image. And that's a new era that's just been unfolding in the last several months. So if I were to sort of try to help better understand how it works just in the image space, you can see here a lot of pictures of blueberry muffins and Chihuahua dogs. Now, we as humans can easily distinguish what's a blueberry muffin and what's a Chihuahua dog, but an AI, years ago could not do this. And so it had to be trained on thousands of images of Chihuahua dogs and thousands of images of blueberry muffins. And then once it learned the difference between the two, it now was able to categorize and classify those images as it sees fit. And it can also work with an image creator. For example, if I typed in, create an image of a blueberry Chihuahua dog, and then I get this. I could even take it a step further and make that dog talk. I could make that dog run around on a video. I can do all kinds of crazy things with a simple image with the way in which these AI use cases are growing. But so overnight, prompt engineering as a result of these large language models has now become very important. And how you create your prompt or craft your prompt is becoming increasingly more important in the kinds of results that you might get in using these tools. These are sort of what, as of the middle of this month, that I have classified as sort of the top 4 large language models. Now, there's several others. In fact, there's hundreds of large language models and several other popular ones. But these sort of illustrate sort of the unique differences between each one. You have GPT-4o, which is free, by the way. This is the latest model from OpenAI, and it's multimodal. You can actually, for those, it's unlocking, by the way, these features. So not everybody has these features quite yet. But I was just showing the Hartman team earlier that you can actually have a conversation with it, and it'll talk back and forth just like it's a real human. And it also has up-to-date information. They have something called a GPT store, where you can actually go and use really finely crafted prompts for specific use cases. And so it's also going to be slowly rolling out an image assistant fairly soon. And that's where you'll be able to open up the camera and point it to something and say, hey, how do I fix this? Or how, what is this? What am I, working with? And it'll actually be able to talk to you based on the environment that you're in or whatever you're looking at. The next one is Claude 3.5 Sonnet, and Claude 3.5 Sonnet actually sometimes outperforms GPT-4o. It creates a really interesting, unique collaborative work environment using a tool called Artifacts. It is particularly good at coding and transcribing text from imperfect images. So it's really a good use case for retail, logistics, financial services, are finding some interesting uses with Claude 3.5. The next one is Google Gemini 1.5. And what's interesting about this, and by the way, it's multimodal as well, but it has a 1 million token context window. And what that means is your context window is the window in which you put your prompt in. So if you have a 1,000,000 token context window, that means you can upload an hour of video, 11 hours of audio, or 700,000 words, which is roughly about 3/4 of the Harry Potter series. That's a big prompt. So knowing that you can put that into your prompt window, you can put books and all kinds of videos in there and actually then query your prompt against that information, and ask follow-on questions about it. So this is where a lot of these large language models are moving into larger and larger context windows, which is, by the way, unlocking new use cases for how to use these models. And then the last one I want to mention is Meta. And for those of you unfamiliar with Meta, Meta is behind Facebook and Instagram, but they also are working in this large language model space, and their latest version is Llama 3.1. It too is very sophisticated. It's also an open source architecture. And the reason it's worth mentioning is because it is open source, businesses can actually work with it and customize the large language model for their own use case. Prior to this, it was used a lot for research and other smaller custom applications, but now it's gotten very, very sophisticated and has unlocked a new window for other ways in which these models can be used as well. So just to give you a sense of how these models have been growing, we've got, GPT-2, which was not open to the public, and that was sort of at that preschooler stage. Then it moved up to adolescent. Then your high school student was roughly 3.5. That was what was introduced to the public way back in November 2021. And then you've got 2023, the college or grad student level. And then right now we're dealing with sort of that level with enhanced capabilities. And people will argue about sort of the intelligence from an academic standpoint of these models, but they're all sort of slipping and sliding within those frames. But the reason I show this, and the reason I just highlight GPT-4, because it's a nice kind of ramp to show the progression of these models, is that GPT-5 is expected to come out maybe later this year or next year, and it's expected to be at a PhD level or an extreme pro level. And that's going to be a really advanced way in which you can use these large language models within your daily work habits. And then all of these, everyone's also, the device manufacturers are also putting in their own, or their own software within these systems. So you've got Microsoft Copilot. A lot of you might have Copilot on your computers right now. That's a very successful launch within Microsoft, and there's all the different kinds of ways in which those tools can be used. And then Apple's coming out with their version, likely later this year or next year as well. Now, all of this adds up to increased productivity for you and your employees. You can use it for drafting proposals, letters, reports. In fact, I'm estimating that a lot of you have people within your organization already using it in that format. But you can also use it for market research, for data analysis. You can have it review contracts and budgets. You can even use it to help with, handling a negotiation or any objections that might occur during that negotiation. People are using it also for meeting recaps. In fact, it's built into a lot of vendor applications in that space. And then there's brainstorming new ideas. It's particularly good at this because the example I gave you earlier with the AlphaGo is what's interesting about it is that you're going to get new ideas, maybe ideas that you wouldn't previously have thought of. And so it kind of gives you that, ability to dial up your brainstorming. And then for those of you who have marketing, PR, or social media within your organizations, this is an amazing tool in that respect, because there's a lot of graphic tools, and I'll talk more about that in a few minutes. And so basically any repetitive task, it can be automated as a result of AI, but it's going to be able to do much, much more very soon. So let's just to highlight a couple of use cases that are probably applicable to a lot of businesses, and that is customer service. And this is where you're going to start to see the AI really starting to unfold with a lot of different organizations. And some people call them agents, some people call them chatbots, but it's basically able to handle customer inquiries, and it can speak in any language or dialect. which is really nice when it comes to customizing those conversations with your audience. The speed times have gotten significantly faster, but it's also making the speed in which you can handle these, day-to-day inquiries. It's going to free your staff up to potentially handle more complex issues. Or if you don't want it to be customer facing, you can just use these tools to communicate with your staff so that they're consistently giving out information to your customer base. And by the way, the way in which these work is that you are simply feeding it your own data, your own information from your website or any other content to train it and allow it to customize the responses when it's connected to one of these large language models. And there's a whole way in which these can be created. There's a lot of, you'll see airlines starting to use it. There's a couple of other businesses I've seen. A lot of retailers are using it now. And frankly, it's the sophistication of this customer service is actually improving dramatically. And then there's human resources. If you have turnover within your organization or simply want to up your game when it comes to HR, it can develop personalized training that's relevant to a specific job role. It also can provide a virtual assistant to answer questions about vacation time, safety rules, regulations, anything like that. And that's going to enable consistent dissemination of information to any new hires that you bring on. Or even just raising the game of the people that already work within your organization. And then performance management. You can use analytical tools to analyze employee performance, identify any trends with your employees, and also provide actionable insights to your managers so that they can create more accurate performance goals along the way. And then sales. I'm guessing a lot of people are already using it to draft kind of emails that will help be tailored to a specific client or customer. It's particularly good at this. In fact, you can even train it to speak in the style in which you speak or you write. And that makes your kind of more personalized and it sounds exactly like it's coming from you. You can use it to generate checklists or things that you might want information and data that you might want to gather in defining a qualified prospect. And you can also create custom proposal templates that can easily be customized for different clients. And some of these things are already being used now. And the marketing PR stuff, this is where things get really cost effective. You can, again, fine tune your marketing efforts so that you're really super targeting specific audiences with specific needs. And you can improve even your website content. In the past, people have had to go out and hire SEO experts to help with their content. Now, basically every large language model is an SEO expert. So you can use those to actually improve the content on your website. And then when it comes to images and video, in the past, people have had to pay to use images or pay to use videos. Well, now you can create your own images and videos. So that's kind of creating a whole unique area as well. And then we have, if you haven't thought about it in the past, you might think, well, gee, I might want to create a video or a commercial for my business. And that used to be very cost prohibitive. But now with the use of these tools, it really has dramatically brought the cost down in being able to create that. So now we're going to look a little more closely at financial services use cases. And here we have the back office efficiency. And I really want to stress this because this is an area that I think a lot of people struggle with. And it's allowing, it's kind of a little bit very similar to the customer service chatbot I talked about earlier. But here you're giving users access to policies, procedures, common tasks. You can even use it to print checks or have somebody check paid time off. And this is all going to enable your team. And in fact, all of these tools are going to be allowing your team to focus on higher value work. And it allows you to increase your productivity within your organization. And it also allows you to stay competitive because all of these tools are going to be soon implemented by a lot of competitors. And that's going to make it necessary to really kind of for everyone to up their game in this space. Fraud detection and prevention. Now, I think, AI, some people may be already using AI in this, and this is only going to keep improving over time. Regulatory compliance is another area where you can help to, continuously monitor transactions and operations for regulatory clients. And it can be alerting the bank or the credit union when they see deviations. And this is going to be, by the way, going to become increasingly important when you hear about some of the unfortunate bad actors that are using AI to scam people. So this is going to, the more regulatory or AI tools that you can use in this space to detect fraud, to help, look for those deviations is really going to help you in the long run. And then loan processing, streamlining the loan application process, accessing applications, underwriting loans, creating a predefined, criteria. Again, using the AI tools to free up time for your employees to be able to go through these procedures and processes in a far easier way. Insurance companies, risk assessment and management. You can more accurately analyze vast amounts of data. And there's a lot of interesting things, I think, happening in this space alone. Predictive analytics, you're going to hear more and more of that phrase because it's able to simply use historical data to predict the future. So it might be predicting future claims, and then it can adjust the pricing models accordingly. And this is going to ensure that you stay competitive and the premiums are fair, and you have all of these different data points working around you. Then there's usage-based insurance. Now, this is already happening with some insurance companies, and that's putting those IoT devices, for example, in a vehicle. But you can also take into account weather information, all kinds of other things that might help, better define how that, usage is actually being handled in different environments. And then predictive monitoring. This is really interesting as far as forecasting those potential risks and losses, allowing those insurance to take those protective measures when needed. And looking at data that is not necessarily within your organization, but kind of correlating data that might exist outside your organization. And you can bring that into your current data to make it smarter and work more efficient for you. But with all the good about AI, there's also downfalls and dangers, and I want to make sure we cover those. The first one is a term that you're going to hear a lot, and that's called hallucinations. And if you haven't heard it yet, I'll just explain it to say, this is when AI makes stuff up. And it is an unfortunate side of the results of some of these large language models. It is improving. I frankly, have been using these for a few years now, and I've seen a dramatic change in the number of hallucinations that I get with my results. Now, some of that has improved because I'm crafting better prompts. I'm asking it to cite references when I create a prompt so that that's actually giving me the tools in which I can check to make sure that information is correct. But if you were to give it a prompt, like give me the top, 5 ski areas in West Virginia, and if it can only think of, 3 or 4 ski areas, it's going to make the 5th one up. Or anytime you give it sort of a prompt like that, it wants to please you. So it's going to try to give you as much information as it can. But if it can't find the information, it's essentially making up the information. And that's really what you have to be aware of. And this hopefully is a short-lived problem. I have noticed that some of the large language models are actually automatically including the references, but don't just assume that if there's a reference to the information that necessarily means it's a correct reference. So you still have to click on those references and check them to make sure that it is based on facts. And then there's biased responses. And this unfortunately happens because a lot of the data that helped to train these large language models was unfortunately biased data. And then this is exacerbated by the fact that within organizations, some of the data that maybe any organization might have compiled also might have bias within it. So even the prompt could help, could exacerbate the biased response. So it's really important that you work with good data. You ensure your prompts are extremely well written so you can help to mitigate a biased response down the road. And it also helps to have diverse teams of people that are working on your AI solutions because they can sometimes more easily spot and help reduce that bias as well. And this hopefully, again, is a short-lived problem. It's going to take, I think, a little longer to work out than the hallucinations issue. But this is something that everybody needs to be tuned into and really working within their systems to make sure that they're reducing the bias in the results. And all of this is happening, or all of this is really hard for humans to really understand how these results are generated because all of the AI is essentially thinking inside a black box. And it's not a physical black box. It's just a term that AI researchers use to say that we really don't have the capability of peeling back the onion to understand how the AI came up with the answer that it came up with. And some researchers are off now trying to use AI to better understand how those answers are generated. But the complexity in which the algorithms go off and generate these answers is so highly complex, it simply is not easily understandable to humans. And so this is leading to that bias and that lack of accountability and the hallucinations, because we really can't peel back to see how those answers were created. But hopefully we'll get to the bottom of this soon as well. And then there's deep fakes. And this is an area that I think is of particular interest to your organization because once a fake is seen, it's really hard for people not to believe it was fake. And I've created a fake, by the way, of myself. I personally have never been in the Olympics. I have never won a gold medal. But in a minute, I was able to put my face on a prior Olympic gold medalist and even have me talk.
I'm so excited to be an Olympic gold medalist. I really want to thank all of my supporters.
Now, that looks a little goofy, and you could probably look at it and go, yeah, I could tell that was AI. Well, again, I did that for free and likely about maybe a few minutes of my time. If I had taken more, maybe 30 minutes to an hour, if I had paid a little for some of these additional tools, that would look flawless. You wouldn't be able to tell the difference between me on this video right now and that person that I created there. So this is the way in which this is moving, these fakes. These AI tools are actually able to take just a few seconds of somebody's voice and they can mimic their voice. They can take a photo of that individual, or better yet, a video of that individual, and make it say things that that person never actually said. And the reason it's important in your industry sector is that you may have people, these kind of artificial people with, data and information calling, even visually, kind of appearing to ask for, financial, data, information, whatever. And you think it's that real person, or you think it's your boss calling you or emailing you when in fact it's not. And this is where we get into sort of the fraud GPT. And there are AI, unfortunately, for all the good that it does, and it unfortunately, if you're a bad actor, there's a lot of great tools out there that people can use for spear phishing, creating undetectable malware, simply making all of the identifying vulnerable websites and more or less sounding exactly like your boss. And if your boss were to call you on the phone right now and say, hey, I need you to transfer this X amount of money from this location to this location, you might go, oh, well, that was my boss that called me. That was his number. Yeah, I'll definitely do that. Well, nowadays in this new age of AI, you always have to check, because the weakest link within any organization right now is the employee. So you want to make sure that you double train your staff on these new risks and vulnerabilities, that you confirm those financial transactions. Actually pick up the phone and call your boss back and say, hey, did you actually ask me to wire this money? And just to make sure that it was in fact them. You might even have a vendor sending you an email, and maybe you didn't get hacked, but that vendor might have been hacked. And now that bad actor is able to send emails from that vendor account and ask you to do things like change a routing number, for example. And so all of these kinds of things are really putting businesses at risk. And just from a personal perspective, because of this is also going to eventually affect families and not just businesses, I'm suggesting that people go out, leave their phones and electronics in their house, and go out to the far corner of your yard away from all electronic devices and come up with a family passcode or passphrase, and never type it, never text it, never talk about it in front of any other devices, and just memorize it. So that way, when a family member calls you and they're in a crisis, you can ask them if they know that passcode. Or you can simply call them back to make sure it truly was them that called you, because I'm seeing more and more of these scams. I'm even seeing phone calls coming to people's, particularly the elderly, where they basically just, there's no voice on the other end. And so they're waiting for that person to give them those couple of, seconds of their voice so that they can try to match that voice and use it for future scams. And the other thing that hurts in the downside of AI is bad data. And this is really when it does hurt more than it helps. The strength of AI is all about analyzing information. But if your information is bad from the start, if it's inconsistent, if it's biased, if it's just, not reliable, then your organization isn't going to benefit from all these amazing AI tools. So it's really important that you train all of your employees on good data hygiene habits, make sure that they're up to speed on the latest procedures and that those procedures actually align with, good habits as well. And also be very, very cautious. In fact, this is what I would prioritize over everything else right now is don't let your employees upload sensitive data to random large language models. Those large language models, they feed off of data. And now there are a few scenarios and situations where your data can be protected, but it honestly takes a lot of evaluation to make sure that is happening. And when you're working with sensitive data, which a lot of you are, you have to really think carefully about how you're using these models. And if you want to make sure that your employees are not just randomly uploading budget data or financial data of any kind. And hopefully this message has already gotten out to all of your employees already. But the best defense is a strong offense. And the way in which we do that is we're recommending conducting an AI assessment. And this is really where you're assessing the security, how is sensitive information and data handled? Is your cybersecurity training up to date? For example, does it take into effect that somebody might sound exactly like your boss calling you? Most of the cybersecurity training that I've been through recently does not include that. What's the quality of the data? Where is it stored? How is it being used? And then also analyzing vendors. There's a lot of software vendors that are integrating AI into their solutions, but is your data protected in those environments? Or is your information, how are those solutions going to feather into maybe other initiatives that you're planning within your organization? And then conducting an opportunity analysis. How can AI be best utilized at not just the individual level, but also the departmental level and the company-wide level so that it's aligning with the goals of the organization, it's boosting productivity, and it's making you as competitive as possible. And then at the end of the day, what you really want to have is sort of a matrix of options so that you can visualize what those potential AI use cases might look like, and which ones are going to be easiest to implement, which ones are going to give you the biggest bang for the buck, and which ones, really you have the data already in existence to make them work. So these are just different ways in which you can kind of conduct this assessment. And then you also want to have, if you don't already have it, you want to have an AI governance model. And this is going to allow you within your organization to manage all these risks that we've talked about alongside the innovations, because you don't want to be in a position where you're saying, well, we're not going to innovate. We're not going to do any of this because the risks are too high. Frankly, everyone's going to be moving down this pathway, and there's going to be a certain degree of risk that everybody's going to have to manage along the way. So you want to make sure that you set up these governance policies so that they're, following all of the ethical principles, especially if there's ethics that go beyond your organization that you need to follow. Ideally, you want to set up an oversight committee within your business. Make it be a multidisciplinary team so that it's really thinking through these projects from the top down and how they're going to be interwoven within your organization. Always be looking out for bias and fairness, making sure that this is very transparent as well, that you're clearly communicating any of these updates. And by the way, you will need to regularly update this to make sure that it's aligning with the latest, kind of exponential growth of the AI. AI is going to be changing, so these policies are going to be changing over time. They need to evolve with it. Unfortunately, AI is not a one and done. It's not a box you check and say, oh yeah, I've done that. Now I can sit back and just kind of rest. No, AI is constantly changing, so we're going to constantly be needing to evolve our solutions. And then you want to have an AI roadmap. Ideally, the roadmap is going to be sort of your guidepost. And again, this will have to evolve over time, but you want to make sure it's starting from the top down. There may be really smart people in your organization at lower levels that are going, oh, I'm going to create this AI tool, or I'm going to build this AI tool as part of my workflow. And if you've got too much of that going on, you're going to end up with a lot of fractured AI efforts around your organization. So you want to make sure that it's a very comprehensive approach. It starts from the top and works its way down, that it's aligning with the business goals, and that you're really looking at the right use cases that are going to bring the most value and have the clearest path to implementation within your organization. It's always going to dial back to ensuring that quality of data is good. That's going to really ensure the best success. And over time, you want to build a team. You want to have your cyber experts, data experts, and AI experts, along with experts who understand all the myriad of features that are within Copilot. And Copilot is just one example, but there's going to be a lot of different vendor solutions out there, and it's important to really understand how they all weave together. And if you don't have these experts within your group, then you definitely want to work with organizations that do have that combined level of expertise, because it takes that holistic view of AI from that level to really put together a cohesive plan. And then when you have your, your use cases all dialed in, you want to pilot the projects, start small, scale the successful ones, and try to avoid what we call pilot purgatory. And that is where you just do a lot of pilots and nothing ever really reaches the light of day. You want to make sure these are working for you in the best way possible. And then just to wrap up, I just like to always talk about the fact that we are all learning in this new age of AI. This is, it's not about, somebody knows more than you or anything like that. It's going to be, it's really a learning curve for everyone. So get out there and use the free versions of the large language models, use the free tokens, the trials. A lot of these different tools have a lot of different features. So you want to see which ones best fit your needs, and test your prompts. There's might even you want to use AI to help you craft a prompt. In fact, some use cases of the AI helping to craft the prompt have worked out well for people. And this can help to mitigate the bias and the hallucinations. And over time, you will slowly become an expert, and you're definitely going to be increasing your own productivity and the productivity of your organization. And make sure that the culture within your organization is designed such that people are willing and open to share what they learn. AI is moving so quickly that we don't really want people learning in silos and not sharing that information. So it's really important for people to get together, whether it's lunch and learn or whatever you want to craft, so that people are actually, if they've tried out a new tool and they like the way it works, they can share that information with others in their organization as well. And with that said, we can now open it up to some Q&A.
All right. So as we get started here, we have a few questions for you, Anne. First off, is it okay to adopt an AI policy that we find online for our organization? Are there any dangers we should be aware of?
Yes. So AI policies, they're pretty easy to find on the internet, and you don't want to be in a position of cutting and pasting those policies, because, what works for one organization may not necessarily work for another organization. Even if you find a policy written for a similar type of company, you still need to customize it, because there are, you might have different objectives within your group, a different mission within your group, a different competitive structure around you. So you've got to take all of those things into consideration, including the data that you have, and create those policies that are specific and customized just for your organization.
Wonderful. All right, our next question here. There are so many new AI tools coming out. How can we best manage our staff excitement over the new latest trendy tool?
Yeah, and there are literally dozens upon dozens of tools coming out every day. And what I would definitely do is create a review process in looking at these tools, because some of these tools, by the way, are just created by a single person. And that person could either get hit by a bus the next day, or that person could be a bad actor, just trying to grab information and using a fancy new tool to do that. So you really want to research the organization or the company behind the tool. What is their reputation? Are they a startup? How well funded are they? Are they going to be in business a year from now? Because if you're putting a lot of energy into building a solution around that tool, and that company goes under in a week or two, that's it has been a waste of your time. So there's really a lot of research that needs to be done in looking at these tools.
All right, we just had another one come in. Do you have to do a risk assessment if your organization wants to use AI?
I think it's it's the smartest path forward. Doing that kind of risk analysis can certainly help you. It also is going to help you in creating those policies and procedures. But there's certainly people at the individual level that can use these large language models just for their own personal productivity. But that even has to be policed to a certain level. So you have to make sure that everything that is starting to align within the organization, and that these use cases, as they evolve, that they're really working for you in the long run, and even using these tools to sort of predict where AI is going to be in the next few months. Because if you spend time on building something that's not really going to work for the organization in the future, that's again some wasted time.
Wonderful. And our next one here. How can we measure the success of our AI initiatives? What KPIs should we track?
Yeah, so there's a lot of unique KPIs. I've said in the past, sometimes this is a great use case for using AI. You can actually ask the AI to, give you ideas on the types of KPIs that best fit your type of organization and the kinds of things that you really want to measure, and how you want to measure the success of, a potential pilot, for example, that you might have been rolling out. Definitely take a measurement of that, how the productivity level before you introduce something, so that you have that baseline measurement. And then, using those KPIs or using those recommendations, and even, having that committee that I mentioned help evaluate those KPIs, and then put those into place and measure against that as you move along in your growth with that solution.
Wonderful. And our next one here is, what kind of infrastructure will be required to support AI initiatives?
Yeah, so a lot of these initiatives, if you're wanting to do it in-house, that certainly is a bigger lift. But a lot of the cloud infrastructure models are allowing people to create these solutions out on the cloud in a very protected environment, by the way. And there's all kinds of different platforms that allow you to even create custom solutions for you. And so that way you're, kind of using those, that infrastructure versus having to build it on your own.
Great. And our next one here is, when we actually have that AI governance framework in place, how often should we review it and update it?
Yeah, so I'm actually recommending monthly, and I know that sounds like kind of a big lift to look at something that often. Actually, if it were me, I'd almost look at it weekly. I just in the creation or conversations that we've been having just this week, AI has made many advancements. So you want to make sure that your policies are reflecting the ways in which these tools are evolving. So when you have a 1 million context window, when you have multimodal AI, for example, an AI that you can open your camera up and use it, do you want people opening it up within your company and actually showing people the inner workings of your organization? So those are, you might need to evolve it to reflect the latest advancements in AI.
Wonderful. And I think the next one here is, you mentioned that bad data is a problem for AI. How do we know if our data is reliable today? And if it's not, what's a good first step to improve data gathering processes to improve our data?
So the advice I give is to have an outside organization review your data. And the reason I recommend that is because oftentimes when you're working inside your own bubble, it's hard for you to see those errors in your data. It sometimes takes that outside perspective looking in to really spotlight it and help you find those, where there might be a biased data set, or where a data set might not be as healthy as you think it is. And that's a great opportunity to really kind of open up, open your outlook up a little bit more, so that people are able to give you new ideas and information about your data, and you're not just working within your own kind of set of where we're oftentimes working within, just people around us looking at that information. It's sort of, kind of putting those blinders on at sometimes.
All right. It looks like that is the last of our questions. So
Great.
Thank you so much, Anne, for that insightful presentation, and thanks to everyone for attending today's webinar. We hope that everyone found the session very valuable and that it sparks some new ideas on how AI could be integrated into your organization.